Hancock from One Piece. Beautiful, mysterious, lives near water. Men who get too close, completely powerless against her. Now what if I told you she's not just a fictional character? A goddess exactly like her has been worshipped in West Africa for centuries. Same beauty, same serpent, same water, that same power over men. And she's just one of 5 water creatures that every civilization on Earth independently invented, with no contact between them. How is that possible? Let's find out. Every civilization on Earth invented the same water monster. Here's why. Japan and Mexico, Scotland, Africa, Brazil. These civilizations never met each other. They never shared languages, never traded ideas, never crossed the same oceans. And yet, every single one of them invented the same monster. A creature that lives in water, that lures people to the edge and drags them down. How is that possible? Before we get into the creatures themselves, I want you to understand something. When two civilizations independently develop the same idea, the same technology, the same math, the same story, scientists call it convergent thinking. It happens more than people realize. But when it happens with monsters, when people on opposite sides of the planet, with no contact whatsoever, invent the same creature, that's when it stops being a coincidence and starts being something much more interesting. Tonight we're going to look at 5 water monsters from 5 completely different civilizations. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why every single one of them exists. Creature 1, the Kappa, Japan. We start in Japan. One of the earliest accounts of this creature appears in the Nihon Shoki, Japan's second oldest book of classical history. Written in 720 AD, the Kappa. It is described as a small humanoid creature, roughly the size of a 10-year-old child. Green skin, a turtle shell on its back, webbed hands and feet, and on the very top of its head, a hollow bowl filled with water. That water is the source of its power. Spill it, and the Kappa dies. The Kappa lives in rivers and ponds. It waits at the water's edge, and when someone comes too close, it drags them in, children especially. In fact, even today in Japan, you can still find warning signs near rivers with a picture of the Kappa. The signs say simply, "Beware of Kappa," a creature from 720 AD, still on warning signs in the 21st century. Creature 2, the Ahuizotl, Aztec, Mexico. Now crossed the Pacific Ocean entirely. Ancient Mexico, the Aztec Empire, Lake Texcoco, the Great Lake at the heart of the most powerful civilization in the Americas. Here lives the Ahuizotl, documented in the Florentine Codex, a massive encyclopedia of Aztec life, compiled by a Spanish friar in the 16th century. The Ahuizotl is described as a dog-sized creature with waterproof fur, small pointed ears, and at the end of its tail, a human hand. That hand reaches out from the water, grabs fishermen, grabs children, pulls them under. And the Aztecs believed the victims weren't just killed, they were chosen, selected by Tlaloc, the rain god, to join his paradise. Their bodies were considered secret. Only priests were allowed to touch them. A monster that kills you, but sends you to heaven. Creature 3, the Kelpie, Scotland. Now we cross to Scotland. The Kelpie, a shape-shifting water spirit that inhabits the lochs and rivers of the Scottish Highlands. It most often appears as a beautiful gray horse, standing alone at the water's edge. Travelers who try to ride it find they cannot get off. Their hands stick to its back, and the horse walks calmly into the water and drowns them. Almost every single body of water in Scotland has a Kelpie story attached to it. The most famous one, Loch Ness. Yes, that Loch Ness, long before anyone spoke of a sea monster. Locals spoke of the Kelpie, a water creature that lured people in and never let them go. Creature 4, Mami Wata, West and Central Africa. Now to West and Central Africa, Mami Wata, worshipped across Nigeria, Cameroon, Congo, Ghana, and dozens of other nations. She appears as a beautiful woman, sometimes with a serpent coiled around her body, sometimes half human, half fish. She appears at the water's edge. She is mesmerizing, impossible to look away from, and those who follow her into the water are never seen again. But here is what makes Mami Wata different from the others we've discussed. She is not only feared, she is worshipped. Shrines built in her honor, offerings left at riverbanks. Entire communities pray to her, because Mami Wata also brings gifts, wealth, healing, fertility. The water that kills also gives life, and the people of West Africa understood that better than anyone. Creature 5, Iara, Brazil, Amazon, and finally, Brazil, deep in the Amazon rainforest. The Tupi and Guarani people, the Iara, a water spirit with the upper body of a beautiful woman and the tail of a fish. She sits on rocks by the river. She sings, and those who hear her voice cannot stop walking toward the water. They walk in, they do not come back. Sailors who survived reported hearing music drifting across the water at night and had to tie themselves to the mast to stop themselves from jumping in. Sound familiar? The ancient Greeks told the exact same story. They called them sirens. Why does this keep happening? Japan, Mexico, Scotland, Africa, Brazil, ancient Greece. No contact between them. No shared language. No shared history. The same monster over and over across thousands of years. So the real question isn't, what is this creature? The real question is, why did every human civilization on Earth need to invent it? And here is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Scholars who study comparative mythology have a theory. These stories weren't invented to explain the supernatural. They were invented to explain something completely real. Drowning, water, rivers, lakes, oceans was the single most dangerous thing most ancient civilizations lived next to. Children fell in, fishermen disappeared, swimmers were pulled under by currents they couldn't see. And when something kills people, and you can't explain why, you give it a face, you give it a name, you make it something your children will be too afraid to approach. The Kappa, the Ahuizotl, the Kelpie, Mami Wata, the Iara. They aren't the same creature, they're the same warning, dressed differently for different cultures, told in different languages, but carrying exactly the same message: stay away from the water. 5 civilizations, 5 monsters, One human truth. What would I do in this situation? Here's the thing that stays with me about all of this. These stories work for thousands of years. Before fences, before warning signs, before safety regulations. A story was all the parent had. The story was how you kept your child away from the river at night. And I think about that sometimes, because we look at ancient people and think, how could they believe this? A creature with a hand on its tail, a horse that won't let you go. But those parents weren't stupid. They were using the most powerful tool they had available to them. Fear, specifically targeted fear, delivered through story, and it saved lives. Would I have believed in the Kappa if I had grown up in a Japanese village in 720 AD? Yeah, honestly, probably, and I'd have stayed away from the river, which means I'd probably still be alive. Maybe that's the whole point. The next time you're near water at night and something feels wrong, remember that every civilization that ever existed felt that same thing, and every single one of them told a story about it. Different names, different faces, different languages, same feeling. Maybe the monsters aren't the strange part. Maybe the strange part is that we ever stop believing in them. Every creature in this video is documented and verified. I've left the sources below. Which one got to you the most? The Kappa, the Ahuizotl with the hand on its tail, or Mami Wata, the monster people actually worship? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this is the kind of story you want more of, subscribe. It takes 1 second, and it means everything for a channel like this. If this video was worth your time, the like button tells YouTube to show it to someone else who needs to hear this. That's how we keep these stories alive. Next time, women were hired to paint watches with radioactive material. They were told it was safe. They painted their own teeth with it. They glowed in the dark, and then they started dying. And the people who knew why said nothing. See you then. Or maybe something like this witch.